Hi everyone, it's Laura here for ModaScrap, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how to create 2 Christmas cards by combining products from the September 2019 release with products that were already present in the store. This is just an overview of some of the products that I'll be using today, but you will find the complete list with links in the description box down below. I'll be using dies, papers and fluffy from the latest release, and this stamp set with the gnomes is from some previous releases and it's called Chariot of Joy. I used the new MISTLETOE wreath to die cut some watercolor cardstock, and I die cut 3 different wreaths and the ribbon. I'm going to add some glitter, color and texture using my fluffy. For the ribbon I used the red berry. This is one of the new colors that were released in September 2019. And then for the wreaths I'm going to use evergreen, also a new color in the fluffy range. I'm going to have 2 wreaths coated in the evergreen, and then for the third one I'm going to use apple green. This was part of the first sets of fluffies that were released in the spring. And the reason why I decided to use 2 colors for my wreath is that I wanted to bring some color variation and some interest. What I'm showing now is the process for the creation of one of the 2 cards. The other one was created pretty much with the same products and it has the exact same design, so it will be easy to replicate if you watch this tutorial, and I'll make sure to highlight the differences when it's relevant. So each of the wreaths on each of the 2 cards will be built by layering these 3 die cuts once the fluffies are dry. Here I am moving on and adding apple green to the third wreath, but you could also use sage green, it would look great as well. That's again another color in the fluffy range if you're new to these products. And there are many ways in which you can use your fluffy. You can apply them through stencils, you can dilute them with water to create shiny droplets, and that's because fluffy have glitter in them, or as I'm doing right now, you can apply them with a brush to your die cuts, which is one of my favorite ways to use them. For the main panel on my cards, I die cut some papers from the Forever Green paper pad. I used the 6x6 size, but there is a 12x12 inches size available too. For the second card, I used the design with the little stars. You will find it in the paper pad. And now I'm using the snowflakes stencil and the new jelly in the color gold to create some snowflakes on the background. On the second card I used the silver jelly, which is the second color of jelly which was released in September, because I wanted to have a little bit of difference between my 2 cards, but also because I couldn't resist and I had to try both of them to see how they actually look, and they are really pretty. I moved my stencil lower on the panel and I'm applying some more jelly, and the reason why I have it horizontal and not vertical on my design is that I wanted to be able to create more than 3 snowflakes in just one go, so this was the solution that I found. And then I put everything aside to dry and started working on my images. The gnome that I am stamping now on some white smooth cardstock, is from the Chariot of Joy stamp set by ModaScrap. As I mentioned already, this was part of a previous release and I thought it would add a nice and fun accent to the card itself. I used a different image on my second card, and that's a gnome from the Time to Celebrate stamp set. I colored it using my Illustrator markers as I'm doing for the gnome you see on screen right now, and the color palette is the same with the only exception of the bows, because I wanted them to match the color of jelly that I have on my snowflakes. So for the card that I'm showing in this tutorial I used the gold snowflakes, and that is why I'm going to use some golden browns to color the ribbon on the present. The other gnome has a ribbon on its hat, and because the snowflakes on my second card are created with the silver jelly, I used some cool grays to color the ribbon there. But that is the only difference. The rest of the color palette is the same. I have my skin tones for his face, his ears and his hands, some warm grays for the beard, and then for his clothes I went for a traditional red and green palette. I used some browns for the boots and I tried to make sure that the greens and the reds that I used matched nicely with the colors that I have on my other elements, so on the wreath and on the paper that I chose today, which, just to remind you, is from the EVERGREEN paper pad. I'm now going to leave you with some music and I'll be back once the coloring is done. Once I was done coloring my image, I used my EK Success Cutter B scissors to fussy cut the image out. This stamp set does not come with coordinating dies, but the Time to Celebrate stamp set that I used on my second card today does, so there I used the coordinating dies to die cut my gnome. Whenever I do fussy cutting, I hold my scissors straight with my right hand, which is my dominant hand, and I move the paper rather than the scissors, because this gives me a more precise and controlled cut. And on this image here, I'm making sure to leave a small white border all around to emulate the look of a die cut image, but if you prefer, you can cut it right along the edges. At this point, the fluffy that I had applied on my die-cut wreaths had completely dried, so I could go ahead and assemble the 3 layers. I am placing the lighter layer in the middle so that there is a little bit of variation and I don't have the 2 dark green layers one on top of the other. And I'm also rotating the wreaths a little bit so that the 3 layers do not overlap completely and I create more dimension and interest this way. For my sentiment, I used the hanging tags to die cut one more design from the EVERGREEN paper pad, and then I used one of the greetings in the EVERGREEN stamp set. I initially stamped it with a brown ink, but then I figured that black was going to look better for this particular project, so I used my mini MISTI to stamp directly on top of my sentiment again, and I was left with a black sentiment for my card. Next, I used some double-sided adhesive to adhere the panel with the snowflakes to my card base. This is one of the 2 wood grain pattern designs that are present in the EVERGREEN paper pad. I used the second design for my second card. And then with the dashing circles, I die cut a circle from another design in the EVERGREEN paper pad, and I used that as a base for my wreath. I did that because if I hadn't placed a cleaner background, so to say, the snowflakes peeking through the wreath would have been a little bit too busy for my taste anyway, so this solved this quote-unquote issue. I created my card base from some heavyweight white cardstock that I cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches and I scored at 5.5 inches, and then I went ahead and adhered the rest of the elements to the card front. I started from the wreath panel that I glued down with some Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to the top portion of the card, And then, in order to have my gnome at the same level of that dimensional wreath, I used some double-sided tape to glue it down to the bottom left corner of the card. And this finished off my project. Off camera, I went ahead and created the second card that I'll be showing to you in a moment, but for now let's just have a look at all the dimension and the shimmer and shine brought in by the fluffy and the jelly. These are some favorite products of mine from the ModaScrap store, and the new color range is really beautiful and perfect for Christmas. And this is my second card, which I created off camera with that silver jelly, the gnome from the Time to Celebrate stamp set, and another of the sentiments in the EVERGREEN stamp set. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below which card was your favorite. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe to my channel for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. As always, thank you all so much for stopping by and have a great day.